Welcome to the Evident Proof demo. My name is Matt Roden. I am the CTO of Evident. We try and run these demos twice a week at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday and 4 p.m. on a Thursday, London time. The purpose of the demos is to give you a brief overview into the Evident Proof platform, what it is, how it works, and how you or your organization can integrate into Evident Proof to store immutable proof of data. So before we get started, what is Evident Proof? So Evident Proof is a platform which allows you to store immutable proof of data. So what is data in the sense? So data is line of business data, transactional data, identity data, asset data from your organization that you need to store immutable proof of evidence for. So evidence is essentially any data that you need to be able to prove in the future. For example, for a litigation scenario in a court of law, for compliance, for audit, to prove provenance of an asset. So effectively, the way Evident Proof works is you submit data to our platform programmatically via a RESTful web service. You get started by getting an account on Evident Proof and generating an API key. Once you have an API key, you can go ahead and read the API documentation, integrate into your line of business application, and start posting evidence data to our platform. When evidence data is sent to our platform, we convert that evidence into what we call a proof seal. It's effectively a hash of your data. And that proof seal is stored immutably using blockchain technology. So effectively, we give you distributed consensus on the seals that prove your source data. What that means is at any point in the future, you can point to your data and say, this was stored at this time from this place in this format, and the data fields all match exactly. So it's a pretty powerful tool. Traditional databases are not secure, and so this gives reassurance that your data is stored immutably and has integrity. And at the end of this process, you can request a proof certificate from our service, which effectively proves beyond doubt that what you're saying is true and that the data was indeed stored immutably on the blockchain. And so that can be taken to a court of law or an auditor or any third party. So this is the Evident Proof dashboard. I've got a fresh demo up for you today. What we've done here is we've created a demo around a sample line of business application. Now, we have one of our real clients using the application is actually the largest supplier of government taxi licensing solutions to UK local government. So effectively, their software deals with the checks and balances and line of business processes of generating and issuing a taxi license in the UK. Now, why is it so important that this data be stored immutably? Well, in the UK last year or earlier this year, there was an article saying that last year in the UK, there were 150,000 taxi licenses issued in the UK to drivers with drink driving bans, criminal convictions, you name it, they had it. It shouldn't have happened. But of course, now that it has happened, the burden of proof is on the provider of the solution and the local government to prove that they did do the checks and balances and show where the errors came in. So effectively, the integrity of their data at this point is really important. So the idea that anyone could point to their database and say, well, you've just backdated the checks or you've tampered with this data really would be a disaster. So storing their data in a distributed, immutable fashion using blockchain technology on the Evident Proof service is the answer to that problem. And so we can't show you their full line of business application. What we can do is show you a trimmed down version of it. And we have this here. And effectively, as you see, this is a line of business application that allows you to create taxi licenses. And we have integrated it into a version of the Evident Proof platform, specifically that we use for these demos. You're going to see the life cycle of the data. So let's crack on. We're going to create a taxi license here. So we're going to go Tom test. we're going to put license active and criminal record check performed. Now, of course, we have checkboxes. In a real line business application, you'd have API calls, you'd have documentation, you'd have scanned evidence. All of this can be submitted to the evident proof service for speed and simplicity. In this demo, we just have a checkbox to represent that data. So let's put in driving license number. Again, you'd have a scan of the driving license and say that an identity check has been performed. So we're going to go ahead and create this license. There it is, Tom Test. We're going to go into the evident proof service and we're going to click on proof seals. And you can now see that we have this data submitted to the platform as evidence. And effectively now we're going to go through and look at what evidence is. So we understand what that form did and what it was. So how does that translate into the evident proof platform? Well, we send data into evident proof as a dispatch as a customer. You can see here that we have an IP address, and this IP address is important because this is the proof of where the data originated from. You can see we have a timestamp for the when, and then we have the evidence itself. So this is metadata, and then we have the evidence. So the client, the customer submits a cross-reference key, which effectively allows them to tie the data back to their source data. This could be a single key, compound key, serial number, ID of a person, and so on. And then we have key value pairs. So you can see here we have a key, which is new license, and we have a value which is the JSON representation of that form data. Those of you in the software development community will recognize this format. This can be a single field, it can be a single form, it can be multiple forms, it can be the works of Shakespeare. We really don't care. What we care about is that we can prove this data for you, and we do that by converting it to a proof seal, which is a hash of the data. That hash is then submitted to our private and public blockchains, where it is distributed amongst millions of computers, and then you can see that we send back to the customer a receipt. This receipt can be stored against the source data to say my data has been immutably stored with evident proof, and here is the receipt to prove it. This receipt can then be used later down the line along with the token received as part of the API call to request a proof certificate. Proof certificate looks at your source data, it looks at the hash on the blockchain, it rehashes the data, and it goes and checks the base transaction where that was stored on the blockchain. And if we click new proof certificate, we've generated a proof certificate, and we're going to go and have a look at the certificate now. And basically what this boils down to is proving that the transaction happened on the blockchain. For the purpose of this demo and this client, indeed, that's a transaction ID from the public blockchain. There are various ways we can tailor these proof certificates to your organization's need. So it's whatever proof means to you and whatever depth of data you need on these proof certificates. And they can be formatted into reports, PDFs, to be used in any kind of scenario that requires that. That is the evident proof demo. We're just about the 10-minute mark, so that's great. Any questions, do feel free to reach out on Telegram and ask myself or Adrian Clark or Brian McClafferty or any other guys, and we'll get back to you straight away. And I will see you at 4 p.m. on Thursday, London time. Thank you very much. Bye.